Show us your honesty. Prove us wrong. We desperately need you to prove us wrong. God help us all if you fail to prove us wrong. God help us.
Another edition of Inside South Asia with me, Bhairavi Singh. It's hectic election season in many parts of South Asia with political realignments taking centre stage. Well, here in India, key assembly elections in 5 states, a litmus test for the Narendra Modi government. Also on the show, other highlights from South Asia. Well, first up on the show, the story that garnered the public's attention this week was the successful rescue of 41 trapped workers from a tunnel in India's state of Uttarakhand. The multi-agency collaboration that brought foreign technical teams but was eventually pulled off by a batch of men from India who specialize in rat hole mining, a tedious and tiring task of manual digging. Our next report has the details. A grueling 17-day wait for these men ended on Tuesday night as 41 workers stuck inside a collapsed tunnel in Uttarakhand's Uttarkashi district were pulled out to safety. A rescue operation that was made possible by an outlawed rat hole mining technique. As rescue teams raced to save the workers, they finally dug through the last stretch with a now banned manual mining technique. 2 teams of specialists were flown in from Delhi for the task. The outlawed practice saved lives when high-tech machines like the auger failed to drill through the last 60 meters of rock. A tiring task that requires the diggers to take turns.
मैन वाली काम किया है सर, टोटल हाथ से। मुश्किल तो है सर, लेकिन इस समय पे मुश्किल नहीं था।
अच्छा, आपको लगता है मेहनत रंग लाई है?
बिल्कुल सर, ये तो आप भी देख सकते हैं कितना रंग लाई है और कितना फीका है।
Every effort was made to save these men from a tunnel in Uttarakhand's Silkari district. Battalions of tunneling experts were brought in, disaster response teams were set up, medical personnel were on standby. Once south, the men were airlifted by the Indian Air Force Chinook helicopter and taken to the All India Institute of Medical Sciences in Rishikesh. They were brought out through 57 meters of steel pipe on wheeled stretchers. 41 ambulances, one for each trapped man, was seen on standby. The workers were greeted with cheers and flower garlands, while the Chief Minister also was present at the spot to welcome them. The Prime Minister congratulated them over a telephonic conversation.
आपके और आपके सभी साथियों को बधाई देता हूं। एक सुखरूप हम इतने संकट के बाद भी निकल पाए और मेरे लिए तो बहुत ही खुशी की बात है। मैं शब्दों में वर्णन भी नहीं कर सकता हूं।
41 मेंबर्स थे सर, और सब अदर स्टेट थे सर, लेकिन ऐसी कोई बात नहीं, हम लोग सब भाई के जैसा रहते थे सर। किसी को भी कुछ हो तो हम लोग एक साथ रहते थे, कुछ भी प्रॉब्लम होने से कोई दिक्कत नहीं था।
A green corridor was set up to ensure each ambulance is quickly transported to a makeshift hospital 30 kilometers from the tunnel site.
मेंटल कंडीशन उनकी बहुत अच्छी है, मतलब ये एक बहुत ही अच्छा विषय है कि उनको दे आर वेरी पॉजिटिव, और एक दो लोग उनके साथ ऐसे हैं जो कि दूसरों का भी बहुत साहस बढ़ाते हैं, और उन्होंने उनका जो मोरल है वो हाई करके रखा उस पीरियड में भी। तो मेंटल कंडीशन अच्छी है। हो सकता है थोड़ी बहुत नींद वगैरह में उनको प्रॉब्लम आए अभी, क्योंकि वो बहुत टेंशन में रहे हैं इतना टाइम। तो वो उसके लिए हम उनका कुछ हिस्ट्री वगैरह ले लेंगे और बाद में देखेंगे अगर किसी को कोई तकलीफ हुई या कुछ प्रॉब्लम हुई तो उनको साइकोलॉजिकली विल सपोर्ट।
Throughout the 17 days, a smaller pipe pushed through debris to provide food, water and medicine to the men. Food that was prepared in consultation with doctors. Smaller pipes were also used to communicate regularly with the men and assess their mental state.
उन मजदूर भाइयों से भी मिला हूं जो बाहर निकल कर आए। सभी लोगों ने कहा कि हमको हर संभव कभी भी अंदर किसी प्रकार की परेशानी नहीं हुई। निश्चित रूप से ये हम लोगों के लिए एक बहुत सुकून वाली बात है।
Located 30 kilometers from Uttarkashi and 139 kilometers drive from the state capital Dehradun, the Silkyara Tunnel is an integral part of the centre's ambitious Char Dham all-weather road project. The government says while the men have been pulled out successfully, safety checks will be done at other tunnels en route to ensure no further incidents. Well, the other big story, Bangladesh seems to be headed for another one-sided election, a repeat of 2014. The main opposition party, Khalida Zia's BNP, has announced it will boycott the elections over Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's refusal to install a neutral caretaker government for elections and a widespread crackdown on opposition parties, human rights groups and activists by security forces. The US has warned it will limit visas for those known to be involved in any systemic crackdown on opposition members. Here's more.
October 28th, Dhaka. Pitched battles on the streets of the capital as police crack down to break up a gathering of some 125,000 opposition supporters. Tear gas and rubber bullets were fired as tensions spiraled. The rally and the rioting underscored deep-seated divisions in the country's political landscape. Demonstrations across Bangladesh, often turning violent, have extended into November. The central demand, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina step aside to allow for free and fair elections under a neutral government. The four-time Prime Minister is accused of corruption, human rights abuse, kidnappings, autocratic functioning and more. This is the primary backdrop for national elections announced for the 7th of January next year. And as of now, there will hardly be an opposition to take on the incumbent. Main opposition, Bangladesh Nationalist Party, its smaller allies, an alliance of left parties, Bam Ganatantrik Jodh and Ganatantra Manch Alliance have decided to boycott the election. Top BNP leaders have been arrested. The party says it will not legitimize what it calls a fake election. The political face-off in Bangladesh has taken on geopolitical dimensions too. US Ambassador to Dhaka Peter Haas has called for free, fair and inclusive elections. Washington even suggested an all-party meeting to ensure this. the US has big stakes in Bangladesh's garment industry. In response, Russia jumped in, accusing the US of meddling in internal matters. Moscow accused Washington of siding with the opposition and promoting anti-government protests. In 2014, Sheikh Hasina saw the Awami League capture 234 of 300 parliamentary seats. As the main opposition, BNP boycotted, 153 of the members were elected unopposed. In 2018, the BNP did contest, but the Awami League's landslide victory was marred by allegations of ballot stuffing and intimidation. Hasina insists she is a defender of democracy and denies any wrongdoing. Just about a month to go for landmark elections in Bangladesh, and big questions persist, even on the basics. What does an emerging one-sided election mean for Bangladeshi democracy? Is Sheikh Hasina's potential return to power for a fifth term indicative of an electoral system giving way to one-party autocratic rule? And what does that mean for the South Asian neighborhood?
Well, the biggest climate conference of the year is upon us, with delegates from nearly 200 countries attending the COP28 climate conference in Dubai. Interestingly, the heads of two of the world's biggest polluters, the US and China, will be conspicuous by their absence. For South Asia, with a string of weather-related disasters and warnings in the recent past, climate change and its irreversible consequences to the livelihoods of millions of people will come into focus. Here's more in our next report.
It's turned into a recurring nightmare in Pakistan. At least 50 were killed, thousands displaced in floods in June this year. This nearly a year after massive flooding killed more than 1,700 people and affected 33 million others. The flood problem extends into India. Assam was badly hit earlier this year, like almost every year. Parts of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir are reeling under the onslaught. Climate change-induced downpours, drought and soaring temperatures have become increasingly common across South Asia, making it a region that is one of the world's most vulnerable to impacts of global warming.
Climate is not going to choose a water or, it's going to impact every single thing, as you said, from food production to manufacturing to ease of business. And so, CII, FICCI and others need to have stronger kind of seminars, opportunities for startups, which can look at green growth sector as a critical opportunity.
The lack of land to grow food, water shortages and displacement of populations are just some of the challenges the region is facing. A World Bank report says some 750 million people in South Asia have been affected by at least one natural disaster. Crop simulation models on wheat production up to 2050 predict a possible 16% yield decline in South Asian nations. A UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change said melting glaciers and changing rainfall patterns can disrupt irrigation systems. Crop growth will be hit hard and water scarcity will rise. This will add to the region's hunger crisis. A University of Leeds study found ice from glaciers in the Himalayas is melting at least 10 times higher than the average rate over past centuries. Researchers said the Himalayas in Pakistan, Nepal and India had lost 40% of their ice over several hundred years. Then there's the displacement factor. a report published by activist group Action Aid in 2020 estimated that the region could see up to 63 million people become migrants by 2050 as a result of extreme weather events. Climate scientists also warned that extreme weather patterns are aggravating the dire health conditions in some of the world's poorest regions. An example of this is the record number of deaths due to dengue in Bangladesh this year. Climate experts predict irreversible consequences to the livelihoods of hundreds of millions of people.
In South Asia, you see a clear direct impact on the monsoon pattern. You see the intensity. You also see, the melting of the glaciers, which is going to be devastating because that's a very critical source. The situation of Maldives, the situation of Pakistan, the floods that devastated the country. It has a direct impact on food production. Then it has a very clear impact on, issues of, disease that comes out of floods.
COP28 this year is expected to stress on the importance of collective action to stop climate change and the critical role of finance in the low-carbon transition. Fact is, it's alarm bells for South Asia like never before, if only they can be recognized for what they are. Action required cannot be stressed enough.
The LGBTQ+ community took out the 14th Delhi Queer Pride Parade, dancing to drums and music. More than 1,000 participants held banners with slogans equality for all and queer and proud. The Delhi Queer Pride Parade comes just over a month after the Supreme Court denied legal recognition to same-sex marriages in India.
Drums, music and hope. Equality for all, queer and proud. These were the messages sent out loud and proud by members of India's LGBTQ+ community who took part in the Delhi Queer Parade 2023. The march comes a month after the country's top court rejected a bid to legalize gay marriages. Taking off from there, the mood at the march was more of protest than of celebration.
And I think the fight is ongoing. There are a lot of things because India is a diverse country with a lot of religious backgrounds, a lot of other things which is taken into consideration. But it's not a single day fight. I think they are doing their aspect, we are doing our aspect as our activists, and I'm sure things will go in a positive way today or tomorrow.
It's not about marriage, it's about equality. Everybody should have the same rights because that's what our constitution says.
India's Supreme Court last month declined to legalize same-sex marriages, with the Chief Justice asking Parliament to enact a legislation. The unanimous orders by a 5-judge bench came as a huge disappointment to the LGBTQ+ community. 5 years after the court scrapped colonial-era ban on gay sex, the fight for marriage equality continues. Meanwhile, history was created in Nepal. Local authorities in a village in the Himalayan nation registered its first same-sex marriage. This was 5 months after Nepal's apex court issued an interim order clearing the way for such marriages in the largely conservative country. All eyes on when this can happen in India. Homosexuality has long carried a stigma in India's conservative society, though there has been a visible shift in attitudes towards same-sex couples in recent years. According to a Pew survey, acceptance of homosexuality in India increased by 22 percentage points to 37% between 2013 and 2019. But many still continue to face discrimination. Campaigners rely on a review petition filed in the Indian Apex Court. Pride walks like this one gives the battle against restrictive a renewed momentum.
And here's a look at what else is making news across South Asia.
Pakistan's largest cities, Karachi and Lahore, continue to face intense air pollution troubles. On the 27th of November, Lahore topped the list of the most polluted cities in the world with an average air quality index reading of 415. The state government of Pakistan's Punjab has blamed the air pollution on crop stubble being burnt in neighbouring India. The authorities have even hinted at cloud seeding plans with the help of China to introduce rain that could disperse smog. The project is being planned at an estimated cost of 350 million Pakistani rupees or $1.2 million.
Bhutan voted in the preliminary round of national elections to choose two political parties that will contest the fourth free vote since democracy was established in the Himalayan kingdom 15 years ago. Nearly 500,000 of the country's fewer than 800,000 people are eligible to vote for the 5 political parties that are in the fray. The two parties that win the highest number of votes will qualify for the final round of the election to the 47-member National Assembly, set to take place on the 9th of January.
Sri Lanka and a group of its creditor nations say they have reached an agreement in principle on debt restructuring. This is a key step for the South Asian nation to emerge from its severe economic crunch. The deal will help Sri Lanka clear the first review of a bailout under the International Monetary Fund Executive Board program by the end of the year. This would trigger a second IMF tranche of about $334 million.
Well, that's all we have time for in this episode of Inside South Asia. But before we go, we leave you with these visuals of dual festival celebrations on the same day. Guru Nanak Jayanti in Pakistan and India and Deepawali in Varanasi. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.
चित्रपट